everybody, and welcome back to Bottomless Coffee Podcast. I'm Jerome, all over the internet at Jerome T. Evans, and today we might be laughing. We'll find out together. We're here with Jonathan Thomas. He agreed to come back. Hey!
Hello, thank you for having me back.
It's a pleasure. We always have really good conversations, and the last time you came on, the episode was called Tall, Dark, and Homosexual. You kind of like kicked off an exploration of trauma that I was not expecting to get from your ketamine joke. Go fig. But I read a book on trauma, and then it came up on the TV show a lot. And I was like, oh, I should become like a trauma-informed podcast host and TV host. So the power of one joke, Jonathan. The power.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not. One of your questions here in the outline was a tall, dark, homosexual. I don't think I'm tall, dark, and homosexual anymore. I am tall and homosexual, but no longer dark. You see all this gray hair? I'm changing it to tall, gray, and homosexual.
Has it been that long since we spoke? Is there a word in the gay community for like, is it silver daddy? Is that the phrase?
Sure, I'll take it.
Tall, silver, and homosexual.
There we
That's
go.
fun. Well, is your comedy still centered around like trauma and stuff, or how has it evolved over the last year or so?
Yeah, I think I don't think it was ever centered around trauma. We talked about that one. We talked about that one joke, which was very trauma focused. But my comedy's always been personal, autobiographical, and observational. And obviously, trauma things do come up. And that was one of the instances of it. But it's evolved, and I think my stand-up still is in that. It still falls under personal, autobiographical, observational. But I've shifted into doing like other comedy type writing. I do satire and political jokes and monologue and news jokes and things like that, which takes me completely out of that realm and is kind of a nice respite, I guess, from reminding myself. But yeah, it's. I guess I'm getting a little defensive because the trauma conversation is a bit loaded, and the fact that people can be critical of artists and performers who fall too heavily on their trauma stories.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's something that I reckon with. There was an interesting article that came out. I mean, most of this all has been gone over in the time of like Nanette and Hannah Gatsby. And there was an interesting article that came out at the time, and just how like women and queer performers in particular, and not just performers, women and queer people, a lot of times to get into public discourse, need to rely on trauma. And this particular author wasn't too fond of that. I'm not really sure where I come down on that, but it's something that I do reckon with in the comedy.
There's a similar conversation in the Black community, particularly with Black entertainers. It's like, I'm not interested in playing a slave or an enslaved person. I'm not interested in this period piece. Like, why don't we just have a thriving, successful person of color who's just like enjoying a really crazy day, you know? And I think Girls Trip, if you saw that movie, I think part of the reason why it was so successful was just 4 Black women, relatively successful, or at least from different walks of life, who were not in any way playing into kind of those stereotypical niche roles that so many performers do have to use to get to success. And you can tell I've had some coffee because I have a lot to say. But that kind of, I have an agent or whatever. I don't really do anything with them, but I obviously have the show, so I'm like technically would qualify as an actor. Yeah. And a lot of like actors are on strike now as of just a couple of days ago. And I'm reading the statistics as to like how much money or these people do not make. You know, like the ones we see in the headlines all the time are making some serious dollars, but the ones that we're actually watching in the movies where there might be one starring role, but like hundreds and hundreds of other actors that just kind of pass through our peripheral vision, so to speak. They're barely making rent, much less, saving for a down payment for a house. But those people are like, well, I need to take this one role so that I can get to a place where I don't have to take the role anymore. And so I was kind of hearing from you, Jonathan, is that maybe your career has advanced to such a place that you're like, well, I don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I think it's more of I mean, I'm in a privileged position as an artist that I have a pretty lucrative day job that allows me to, you know, be a little bit more choosy on what I want to do in my creative field.
Yeah.
So I think it's, it's not like I'm at a certain level as a comedian where it's like I can say no to things that would lead me to pigeonhole me. I've just, because of my background, that's kind of where I am, and also thinking about where I want to go as an artist. But it's still tough. Like I perform. I'm here in New York, so I perform in Times Square, and there'll be nights
Really?
there'll be nights when the comedy club will be full of tourists visiting from all over abroad and different parts of America, and that's a different audience than what I'm used to in Brooklyn. And I think I do fall back on the the jokes with maybe some trauma rooted to them because it is a foot in the door. It's a what that that essay I was talking about earlier was what that author was saying was it's a shortcut to authenticity to an outside group, and it kind of it works. And I do catch myself falling on those jokes or relying on those jokes in more uncomfortable settings.
Huh.
Yeah. So.
Well, it sounds like you're in a growth period then.
Sure.
Because if you're, from what I've gathered about your life from watching Miss Maisel, the the only other stand-up comedian I really know, you do have to have a sufficient catalog of material that you can like deploy for the right audience, and so you've moved all the way from Brooklyn to Times Square. So you're developing material for them.
I don't know if that's an upgrade.
Well, it's a bigger audience,
It's a bigger. You can get some big audiences in Brooklyn. It's just a different venue.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I just wonder if you were in the South. I should not be backing up from the microphone. If you were in the South, I wonder how your jokes might change. If you were in Minneapolis, in the cities, the Twin Cities, your jokes might be different than if you were in rural Minnesota. I don't know if you'd have a joke for rural Minnesota, frankly. I don't have any jokes for rural Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think that's an interesting question, and there are some purist comedians who make an argument that your jokes need to work in all 50 states, and I personally don't buy into it. I think that's a pretty privileged argument. I think that's an argument where folks primarily who make that are of a certain variety who their existence has never been challenged in the state. So they may be able to rely on their material more and be able to, use it more and not worry about what the reaction is going to be. I think telling a queer comedian or a trans comedian that they need to be able to perform in all 50 states is a little ignorant at this point. But also, you have to think about what you want to be as an artist, right? Like you can be the type of artist who has jokes that work in every single room. But that's going to be like the pop singer whose song is popular with every demographic.
Be the Taylor Swift of stand-up comedy.
Is that who you want to be? It's that's something you have to personally reckon with, and that to me is not what I'm setting out to do.
Oh, what would you say that you're setting out to do? Because I think the advice on the all 50 states is like very commercial advice, I would say. Are you thinking you might stick with your lucrative side gig? Or are you wanting commercial success, but that's also authentic? Because that's pretty tough.
Yeah, I think I like to get to a point where I can quit my day job and just rely on comedy or writing and or writing, and live comfortably,
Yeah.
but without worrying about too much commercial success, without feeling
Right.
the need that I have to, pander.
So a true artist. Good for you. Now you mentioned political stuff a little bit, and I have noticed on your socials that you do have some political humor. And I guess I should have taken that into account when I was thinking about the way the conversation was going, because uh, on your Instagram and what have you, you're not telling, those same jokes or the trauma centered jokes. Let's say. I'm hearing the satire. I'm hearing the political humor. I'm hearing you come for Republicans primarily. And you're smiling now, so I'm wondering, is that where you think your comedy might go? Because we always need political writers, for sure. I could see you on the Daily Show. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it a lot. I have always been politically engaged. I worked in politics for a while, and obviously I'm an attorney, so there's a lot going on in the legal field right now. So things of interest. These are areas of interest to me, and being able to bring that into comedy and express my thoughts and opinions through jokes, which we talked about before. I think is a pretty efficient way or effective way to express yourself, an argument. I like being able to do that.
Okay, so is there a political joke that you tell in Brooklyn that you would not tell in Times Square?
I have one joke that I don't know. It might work in Times Square, but it's
Ooh.
so the EPA proposed a rule that it will predict. Excuse me, let me start again. So the EPA proposed a rule that it predicts will make electric vehicles the majority of new auto sales by 2032. Also predicted to occur by 2032, the end of the world. Yeah, I think that might work.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that might work in Times Square. Something that everyone can get on board with.
There you go. So the humor's still dark.
Humor is still dark. It's dark out.
I have to agree with you. And I'm like, I am not willing to say that's not like at least trauma adjacent. Like the lack of political will around climate change, I think is a real serious, impactful problem that we are all kind of collectively dissociating from.
Yeah, I think so. That headline, the EPA headline, came out the same day that there was like a UN, or within the week that there was a UN report about if we hit a certain temperature by 2030, it'll be irreparable harm to the planet. It's like, you gotta be kidding me, guys. Like, what are we doing here?
And we're like, doop, doop, doop. Let's make that money.
Come on. Progressing status quo. Business as usual.
Yeah, well, not even. It's more profitable, even.
Yeah, right.
They're like, oh, I didn't know that, fossil fuels will become like more valuable as we go. Oh. Well, so the talk show, has entered its second season, and I've become like more comfortable. And we've filmed 2 episodes. First with a fabulous trans woman, and the second with a gender affirming care doctor. And I have to say, the doctor was a little sensitive, I think. And I made the mistake of like putting in the outline the joke I planned to tell ahead of time. And so it was like, so doctor, you are a gender affirming care specialist. Are you finding that you're getting a lot of referrals from drag queens and other transsexuals? No. He was like, I'm not doing that, Jerome. And I'm like, but come on, the idea that like drag queens are out referring children to gender affirming care doctors is so ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I mean, admittedly, the people who watch the show would not be the butts of the joke, But I'd like to think that sometime someone on YouTube would watch that and be like, oh my God, I've been an idiot.
Yeah, I would like to think that too about my jokes, but I think unfortunately we kind of live in these echo chambers where they're maybe not being as impactful.
Well, you say that, but if I look at the comments on some of my Instagram stuff, and I'm like, oh, I have made it to the point where I now have someone else who is scheduling the Instagram stuff for the Bottomless Coffee account, and so I
Yeah.
just occasionally get a notification, and some of these comments are like, not my target audience.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, and I'm here for it. It's helping the algorithm. It's just getting your content out there more. So it's good.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Give me the discourse in my comments.
You're like, yes, yes. I had a similar conversation with a friend during, I want to say probably, what was probably the height of Twitter now. It's like during Trump's presidency when he's like issuing executive orders or whatever over Twitter, you know. And I have friends who are just like constantly engaging with his account, just like hate responding back. And I'm like, guys, you can't. You cannot do that because it literally just continues to promote him. Like you're giving him, basically giving him free money at that point. And that they did not pay attention to me.
It's the same mistake the media made.
Honestly, I'm not sure if they are making that same mistake again now or not with all of these, the indictment news and everything that's coming out. Or if Trump is maybe making the mistake and not calling press conferences that turn into campaign speeches when he's indicted. Well, I am getting a little warm. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm very shiny, so I'm going to turn on my air conditioning. So why don't we take a quick coffee break, and we'll be right back with Jonathan Thomas. Okay, we are back with Jonathan Thomas. You should follow him on Instagram. It's at Jonathan J. Thomas. And now we spoke a little bit about your writing, wanting to move maybe, not move away from stand-up into writing, but like also add writing into the assortment of things that you do and are good at. And you started a Substack that is officially called Dismissed with Prejudice, which as a recovering attorney, I can appreciate. But I have launched an informal petition to call it Jacked and Stacked, which I think is really fun. But Dismissed with Prejudice is what you have to search for right now to find it.
Yeah. And you
So
can
tell
find
us
that
about
on my Instagram. And your recommendation has been duly noted.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I started a Substack. I was getting into a lot more writing and writing satire, political things and stuff, and doing it for like different people and organizations and kind of having to fit into their voice. And I wanted to do something different where I could just kind of write my own voice and see, just have a little more fun with it and not feel any obligation to like fit it into something else and not really worry about an audience. So I started a Substack. Yeah. It was also an opportunity to and I did crib this from one of my friends here in New York who started a Substack and was interviewing comedians. And I like that idea. And he's asking them mostly about comedy related things. But I like the idea of just asking people open-ended questions. And the best part about doing comedy here in New York is just all the people that I get to meet and very interesting, fascinating folks. So it was a good opportunity to be able to talk to them and ask them open-ended questions and get them thinking a little bit and hearing their perspectives. So I added that as well. And then there's also... Go ahead. I would say there was also...
I was just going to ask you how it's going, but you go first.
Sure. Yeah, so also there's some workout tips because I'm often asked about my workout, so I figured this would be a good opportunity to talk about that. And I love to read, so I talk a lot about the books that I read.
And if, anyone was wondering where Jacked and Stacked comes from. It's because he is very strong, and workout tips make a lot of sense, and they are included in the Substack. And then like stacks, like in the library, you call them the stacks. So it was
It makes
genius,
sense.
I tell you.
Makes sense.
Well, how has the experience been for you, kind of on the other side of the conversation as the interviewer?
It's been great. Yeah, it's been really enjoyable. The best part for me is the interview part, just being able to send out these 5 questions that I came up with, and seeing what the responses have been. And everyone, I preface it when I send them out the questions. You can be as silly or as sincere as you'd like to be, and everyone's getting very sincere, which I appreciate, and insightful. I took the last 2 weeks off when I was on vacation, but I have one coming out on this Thursday, and it's with a comedian, Tim Cove, here in New York, and his response to the question of what success looks like, or what's success to you, is just beautiful, and I've thought a lot about it, and I really appreciate him expressing that, and yeah, so it's been very rewarding.
Oh, that's wonderful. I've only read one, and I don't remember who the interview was with, but I subscribed, and I don't subscribe to anything. I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful, masterful piece. I'm sure I'll remember to come back. But yours, I'm so excited about you interviewing and learning more about your thought process and you interacting with other people that I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be good. I'm definitely gonna subscribe. And then also, I think since we had our last podcast conversation, I have a personal trainer, so I'm also stacked. So I really appreciate those workout tips that come along with it too.
Good, I'm glad. And yeah, subscribe. You're only gonna get one email a week. It's not that bad. And some weeks there won't be anything when I'm on vacation or just lazy.
Very fair. I do want to let you know that I was very jealous of your vacation. Like I never sign up for stuff. Two, I also never get jealous. But here you are with a double whammy because skinny dipping in Greece. Shut up.
It was pretty great.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Had you been planning that trip for a really long time?
No, we actually got really lucky, and friends of ours in New York had been planning it, and they traveled together. It's like a group of 6 guys who travel together all the time, and they were planning it, and then we went out with them and talking to them, and they were like, hey, do you want to come? And they just kind of added us along, and which was great because they're very good at traveling. Yeah, and they booked everything, and they knew what to do, and we kind of just went along for the ride, and it was perfect.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm like somehow more jealous than I was before.
Because the worst part is planning a vacation, but they took care of most of that, so it was really great.
I had a friend group that I went with to Palm Springs, and the way that trip came about is I like in a group chat. I was like, someone organized this trip, and then I was like, I'm gonna leave it alone, and I'm just gonna pop back in, and that did not work out. I had to do just about every little thing.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend who I try to get to plan trips all the time. He was on that trip.
Oh, really?
Palm Springs, yeah. I will send him a message every so often. Can you plan a trip to P-Town? And sometimes he obliges.
It doesn't cost anything if he doesn't oblige. So whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But I am interested in doing more, just creating more, which is something I think you can vibe with. And I want to do vlogs, and I want to do blogs. And the reason that I think that blogs are going to make more of a comeback, which is similar to your Substack, is that I think that with the collapse of Twitter in particular, we're kind of seeing like a decentralization of these big platforms. Like no one's interested in Facebook. No one's really interested in Twitter. Like, we're on it reluctantly. I don't think anybody wants to be there, And I think like an authentic individual experience is where people are going to kind of go if, some new major platform doesn't come out. So I'm going to give it a try. We're going to see. And that's why I went to Palm Springs. I did some of that in Austin, Texas. I did some of that in Savannah, Georgia. But I'm excited for your Substack because like as I'm trying to figure this out myself, I'm absolutely just stealing from other people. I'm like, oh, this is cute. I'll take that and put it on mine. Oh, I'll take that, put it on mine. And I'm not gonna do workout tips, but I'm interested in your interview and your process. And so I did not know that you were emailing people and having them respond. And so that's what I want to do.
Sure. Yeah, I'm doing the email because I'm a person who thinks better through writing, and I want to give my interviewees the same opportunity to like kind of think through and sit on their answers and contemplate them a little bit and see what happens. So that's why
You're not getting that today.
That's fine. I like the written form, but I mean, we could always do a follow up at some point.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like in the moment, like what are you thinking? And then I really want to see you thinking in that moment, which is something that you're really great at. And I love having you on video because I can see the gears like really turning, and I'm like, oh, his gears are not like my gears. He's like very thoughtful. And I'm like, I gotta be quick, it's different.
Yeah. All right. So you want me to ask you some questions?
Yeah, I don't even know, everyone at home, I don't even know how many questions there will be, but we will limit it to a reasonable time.
Okay. Well, the first one is one of my favorites. So what do you splurge on?
That is a very personal question.
This is a PG
I wasn't
podcast.
expecting a dirty question so early in the interview, Jonathan.
It's not a dirty question.
Depends on my answer.
Yeah.
I splurge on like tech equipment and stuff because I like the idea of iterating to success very quickly, and there are things that I won't do to achieve success. So like if I'm on Instagram and I want to get a lot of followers, like I could post like suggestive photos all day long until I get enough people following me or whatever. And I'm like, I'm 41. That is not a sustainable practice for me. But because I am a little bit older and I'm secure in my work, I do have disposable income that I can spend on tech stuff that may or may not help me be successful, right? Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, I did buy a nicer camera that didn't start working well until I like further invested in other stuff. Like I needed a capture card and I needed these other special wires. And then you have to have this service that can actually like record me online at the right frame rate and resolution. So it was a challenge, but I got there eventually, and I will absolutely continue to do that. Even with the TV show, when I'm looking at the videos that I get there, like on TV, it looks one way, and when I receive the files and I upload them to YouTube, I'm like, we could be better. Is this shooting in 4K? What can it shoot in 6K and then downsample to 4K? And so that kind of thing bothers me. We don't have so the way the show is set up. It's 2 chairs and then 3 cameras around the studio. And none of them are really capturing like B-roll. So if you watch like old Oprah episodes, you might get up close pictures of the person's hands or like over the shoulder footage or something like that. And we don't have that. And so I would like to invest in more cameras to see if that would be a possibility, or like one camera that goes around.
Like handheld? How would you do that?
Oh, isn't that a good question? I can assure you the answer will be very expensive. Yeah, so that's I would say what I splurge on.
Interesting. You said you're quick to adopt new technology. Have you adopted any AI? Are you using ChatGPT for anything yet, or any of the other AI operating systems?
I did think about using ChatGPT. I guess I know AI is the future. Yeah. So I will absolutely be incorporating AI in my work in some way. I just don't know how visible it will be. And I don't know if it's going to like revolutionize the kind of work that I do or if it's going to streamline some of the work that I do. So, for instance, I know a transcript of this conversation is recorded using AI. And previously, like the computer couldn't distinguish between which of us was talking. It would just be like a text blob or whatever. And so now that's a little different. Similarly, I can on another piece of software, I can get subtitles generated on my stuff, which is nice. But what I don't get from that software, at least right now, is like the fun animated like subtitles that really grab attention on social media. And so we'll see if that happens. I did ask ChatGPT to write a blog post, and I didn't like it. I was like, it seems fake, and this could be like an inherent bias in the AI because it seemed fake, as in not my voice. But you probably could have inserted like, any high school. No, let's say high school. Let's say undergraduate in college, brunette, um, female, heterosexual, and like she'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it's perfect."
Yeah, I
But
think
that 41-year-old queer black male voice was not found in the
it.
ChatGPT article.
Yeah, I feel like that's been the common experience that like a lot of what's coming out is very much high school or college level term papers. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
That's what the writing's like. Did you ask it to write in your voice or just to write a blog post?
So, very excellent question. And I think maybe if I hadn't known a little bit more about how it works, then I would have asked it to write in my voice. But because I was like, I don't really want it looking for my info immediately. I'm like, don't go watching, 17 hours of TV show episodes about me and develop this model that's like a better Jerome than even I am.
Yeah.
But eventually that'll definitely happen. But I do have issues with like giving other people I'm gonna say control for lack of a better word, control of any part of my persona because like the relationships that I develop with people are like real and authentic. Like I go to bat for people on a regular basis and I don't want anyone to mess that up. So even the social media person that's just posting things to currently just Instagram and Facebook, like the permissions I'm giving him are like incremental because I'm like, are you gonna mess this up? No? Okay. Well, then now you can do TikTok. Okay,
Yeah.
now you can also do YouTube. But we'll see. I'm sure he's gonna mess it up at some point and it's gonna be fine, and I will have worried about it for like 40 hours before it happens.
Okay, that's great. All right, so next question. In what situations do you lie?
Oh. So I used to not lie. Um, uh, I used to not lie. I have to go way back. I used to not lie because um, I wanted to make sure I was believed when I lied about something really important. I was
Strategic.
like, I'm gonna shore up this credibility, and
Yeah. When was this? Was this as a child or?
oh, this was like my 20s
Okay.
for sure, for sure. Um, Now things are a little bit different. So I've run for office twice, and
That made you
those
think of lying.
well, as a public figure, even as like an also ran politician, um, I am like exposed to like hacking at a greater rate than the traditional person. And so those security questions that you get asked to put in, like your mother's maiden name and stuff, those are supposed to be lies for me
Oh,
now.
really?
Uh, yeah, because it's like, oh well, you can Google my mom's maiden name for goodness sake. Like
Yeah,
that's just not a
yeah,
very
yeah.
secure question. Once third parties are interested and like literally interested, well, where did you grow up, Jerome? What was the name of the street?
Yeah.
Like oh, I could just go to property records and look that kind of stuff up. So those will be a lie.
how do you keep track of that? Do you have the answers written down, like your fake mom's maiden name?
Ooh, excellent question that I will not answer. Or I could answer it with a lie. Where are your passwords, Jerome?
Yeah, you think that those questions would have evolved to be a little bit more personal? Because your
Yeah.
mom's maiden name's not is pretty easy to figure out. And the
Yeah.
street you grew up on, yeah, that's even for me. I've never ran for anything, but I'm sure people could figure that out.
Exactly. And so I would say, as a general tip, people should probably lie on the security questions.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you think is the most important thing for people to know about you?
I wasn't expecting more than 3 questions. I thought there was going to be a rule of 3s. This
There
is
was only
one.
2 questions. This is the third.
Was it?
Yeah,
There were follow-up questions. So, and I mentioned this in a lot of interviews, and probably the most important thing is that when I wake up in the morning, I make sure that I not like count my blessings, not feel grateful, that I like some way fill myself up with love. And I make sure the same is true for my husband, because like once we go out into the world, there's really no telling of in what way society is going to come at me that day. But what I find is that if I'm full of love, I don't have any room for shame. I don't have any room for fear. I don't have any room for any kind of bullshit, really. And so it doesn't really penetrate. And so that would be something I would hope other people also take away, or incorporate into their own practice, because it's been really beneficial for me.
that is great. I do something similar, but before I go to sleep, I will think of 3 things I'm grateful for. And sometimes I write it down. Sometimes I've gotten into this new habit where I don't keep my phone in my bedroom. So sometimes I just think it and then fall asleep. Yeah.
That's such a good idea. That has literally never crossed my mind.
It's a great, no, it is a life-changing idea. But I got this alarm clock, like this old-fashioned alarm clock that you can't even set it to wake you up at like 7:30. It's only by the hour.
Oh, where'd you get it?
I don't know. It's so loud. It's like a train whistle at 6 a.m. It went off this morning, and my boyfriend was like, "Just get out of bed. Just get the hell out of here."
I was gonna say, I was like, does Lucas love that? Or
No, he hates it. Yeah, it's not great. But it's been wonderful for me, because then otherwise, if I had my phone by my side, I would wake up and immediately start scrolling Instagram or social media, which is just numbing your well-rested, fresh, brain and ruining it. So I don't do that anymore, which is great.
What do you do in the morning?
So now I'll just get up and I will eat breakfast and read for probably too long, like an hour and a half to 2 hours of.
Oh, that is a long time. Good for you, though. That's really nice.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's reading and writing, but I'll do that and then I'll start working.
That's a wonderful practice. Good for you.
Yeah, thanks.
And just like that, I've taken control of this interview. Because now we are going onto a coffee break, and we will be right back. Okay, you are back with Jerome Evans and Jonathan Thomas at Jonathan J. Thomas on Instagram. I had to scroll up to make sure I got that J right. Well, thank you.
And I do have suggestive photos. I don't have the integrity that Jerome has. I post them.
Okay. You might have actually caught me in a lie then, because I wouldn't call them suggestive, but I went to, well, because I haven't seen them. Okay, let me tell the story. I went to Texas to film with my friend Trey. Trey is a social media manager for a company called Where's Henri. But my flight home was canceled. So he was like, well, I'll get a boat, or I've got friends with the boat. Let's go out. And I was like, I don't have any swimwear. He was like, I got you, no problem. I take these Speedos. I put them in my bag. We get to the boat. I look in the bag. I cannot find the Speedos. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's fine. Everyone lives. I go home the next day. I look in my bag. amazingly, the Speedos are like right there where I swear I looked, but whatever. Trey was like, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. But I was going to take photos on the boat, so can you snap some photos to send them back? And I said, well, I can, but there's a certain level of production that I've grown accustomed to at this point. So I hired a photographer, and we went out to the lake on Saturday. And so in the camera, the photos look great, and I am in a Speedo, but I wouldn't call them suggestive, but I'm not sure if that's true or not.
It's to be determined.
TBD. But that Instagram is at Jerome T. Evans, if anyone out there. Go find the picture of me in a Speedo and let me know if it's suggestive. There. Well, where can we hear your comedy? Where can we find you? Who are you writing for? Give us all of that good stuff.
Yeah, so I am in New York. I am performing pretty regularly for the next 2 weeks until August, and then I'm taking a little bit of time off to get out of the hot city right now. So I'll be away, but you can come see me in the next 2 weeks. Definitely follow or subscribe to my Substack because I'm going to be producing a lot more of that, and that's really enjoyable. I should be posting some more reels on Instagram, maybe TikTok as well. So follow me there. And
I didn't know you were on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't post anything. This is going to be a new endeavor.
Do you like consume media on TikTok?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know if it's my algorithm, but I don't find it enjoyable right now.
Okay.
So I got to figure that out. I think I need to figure out what's going on there. Although there's a lot of videos of mini pigs that I find very enjoyable, and a few of those that come up on TikTok. But otherwise, it's not great.
Listen, everybody, you gotta produce more mini pig content.
Mini pigs. They're
for
adorable.
Jonathan.
They are literally adorable.
I was not expecting that to be like your niche.
Have you seen any of those videos?
No. As a matter of fact, I have not.
Do that right after this podcast.
You send me some mini pig
I
stuff.
will. They're great. Yeah.
And everyone at home, subscribe to Jonathan's Substack. You can find the link on Instagram at Jonathan J. Thomas. And if you want to stream more episodes of this podcast or that TV show I've been plugging nonstop, in this episode in particular, you can find those at bottomlesscoffeeshow.com. Jonathan, you're amazing. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, really consider Jacked and Stacked as the name. Okay. Bye. Bye, everybody.